Hello, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you're all doing well here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the flight sim community. This is Fighter Strike 95, and today we're here in Angola today. That's right, what was supposed to be the fifth country in their journey is actually the sixth one, but we're here in Angola today. Yes, we're entering into another country in Africa, our first sub-Saharan African country on this trip. So I hope you're all doing well here today. Got some really cool areas here to fly here in Angola. Of course, y'all probably know Angola from Southwest Africa. Really neat nation. Got some really places we'll be flying over today. Some really neat scenery. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone here as well. All the lurkers in chat. Good to see you guys. I know there's been quite a bit of news going on from the flight sim world, of course. And I'll even talk about what's been going on for the weekend itself. Here's our flight plan for this morning stream, or this afternoon. We're going to take off here from the Bongo Airport. We're going to fly around downtown Lubango, make your way to downtown, and from there we'll head up northeast, north, and we'll make our way to the city. We'll pass Benguela, and we'll land here at Foxtrot November Charlie Tango. Then from there we'll fly over Lobido, fly around the Angolan coast, and make our way to our second stop here at Foxtrot November Tango. And then for our third and last leg, we'll be making our way over to the capital city of Angola. And one of the world's most expensive cities, Lunada. From there, and we'll land at Foxtrot November Lima Uniform, the biggest airport in the country. So that is where we're going to be in today. That is where we're going to be going this afternoon. So I hope you're all doing. So we're going to take the Pilatus PC-12 with us. So that is where we're going to fly today. We're taking the Pilatus PC-12. I think it would be a really great aircraft. So we'll be taking off here at Lubango. That is where we're going to be taking off here. Hey, Lubango is located in the Hula province of Angola, population 914,000. It's the second most populous city in the country after the capital city of Luanda. This area became part of the Portuguese rule. It was founded by the Portuguese in 1885 to serve the colonists from the Madeira Islands in the Azores. The economy of the city is most well known for agriculture, like meat, cereals, sisai, tobacco, fruits, and more. Are all major parts of the country's economy. So that's definitely something pretty interesting. It's also home to Lubango Airport, which is a headquarters for a fire bomber regiment of the Angolan Air Force. Pretty neat stuff about this. We're going to get 12. We're going to go turn on the pumps. 1. We're going to turn everything on here in this aircraft. So we're going to turn everything on. Get everything up and going. Pretty much set. And there we go, guys. That is our Pilates. Oh, gonna get up and going here. Or 80 degrees. Yeah, the PC-12, very popular aircraft. If you guys aren't aware about the Pilatus PC-12, this is a very popular aircraft. We're going to fly at 7,500 feet above sea level. Here. I hope you guys are having a good plans for this weekend. There's definitely going to be some stuff we'll be talking about here. So we're going to keep around 220 to 250 knots. Go ahead and off. Hey, we have a fall from P Power 115. Good to see you. Oh, I believe it's a bot. I believe that might be just a bot. Hey, we're gonna rotate, and we're back. Up, 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 and away we go in Angola. I know. I. So here it is, guys. This is Lubango. This is the city where we're going to be flying over here. But this is the Angolan city of Lubango. We're going to go ahead and cover Angola for a bit. Definitely a beautiful area here. We're going to go ahead and right. We're going to go to heading a 4-degree heading here. This is downtown Lubango, of course. Second picture of the city we fly past. So we're going to keep on this direction for another 140 nautical miles. Keep on this way. Oh yeah, and we can also set the auto throttle. So yes, this thing has its own auto throttle. Set it to around this. This plane is propped with its own auto throttle. How cool is that, guys? So I hope you're all having a good week. As you guys all know, we have absolutely enormous news from Microsoft Flight Sim. It might even be one of the biggest pieces of news um, in a long while. So yes, Microsoft Flight Sim is coming to PlayStation. Yes, it's coming to PlayStation 5. Um, why is this a big deal? Because there is, if I know a lot of people think, oh, it's Xbox. Like, until you realize that there's a whole massive console market for PlayStation. And it so happens that PlayStation's probably been the more popular of the markets for consoles. So it's a whole other realm of consoles, not just uh, Xbox, but it's a whole other level of consoles and stuff, which is a really big deal. So it's absolutely a massive deal. Not just any console; it's PlayStation. I mean, who would imagine a couple of years ago you would ever expect to see a Microsoft game in joint in Sony? I don't think so. I'm honestly really interested to see how it turns out. I'm really interested in how it works out for PlayStation. I mean, I'm happy we're getting new pilots, and especially for those who play Sony, because people maybe there are people who like Flight Sim, but they don't like Xbox or something like that. That happens more than you think. So that's a very big deal. There's plenty of people who like flight aviation, but they for some reason they rather prefer PlayStation. There's those types of people too. Or some of their favorite games came on just for Sony. But hey, I mean that's pretty interesting as well. That's still massive. Some of the other aviation news. Um, Microsoft releases their newest local legend, the Namek YS11 for the new world update of Japan. So Japan just got re-updated again, which is good because after all, people forgot Japan was actually the first world update for Microsoft Flight Sim. It was the original world update, funnily enough. So now we're going back to Japan again. Um, but for the new plane, it was the iconic NAMC YS11. Very successful. It was pretty well known Japanese built airliner that was built in the 60s. It was pretty successful for Japan, especially for both civilian and military viewers. This was a popular aircraft worldwide. And it's developed by none other than Any Builds, I believe, is the one who developed it. Pricing is $20 US, which isn't bad. I'm curious to see how other people say about it, but it's definitely so honestly should be interesting. Um, am I going to get it? Probably not, but who knows? If people say it's good, I might get my hands on it. I'm just going to be patient for it as well. But yes, definitely pretty interesting. Should be pretty cool. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of markets PlayStation too. That's a whole Asian market. Yeah, PlayStation's very popular worldwide. So that should definitely be very interesting. Um, and of course, we had the Japan World Update, which adds 5 new airports in Hokkaido Spaceport, Ishu Airport, Rishiri Airport, Sato Airport, and Satsuma Iwajima Airport. So 5 new airports. It's added 67 new POIs, including Osaka Castle, Shobetsu Observatory, and more, which should be great when we come to Japan during our trip. But most importantly, we have actually some new photogrammetry. And this one should be good. Tokyo's got it again. They added Osaka finally. If you guys aren't aware about Osaka and Kyoto, which are going to be amazing, that should be very popular for a lot of people. Osaka is Japan's food city, so Sapporo and Hiroshima would be some of the new photogrammetry. But yes, very exciting though. It's good to have another world update. It's good to have Japan finally get some up. Japan really probably it definitely needed it. It was the first update, so it definitely needed another round. Very, very big deal. So let's get back on topic here, and we'll discuss our first country, first part of it, and Angola. And the scenery here definitely looks very nice. We're in the islands here of Angola. Let's go over a bit of our slideshow for a bit. Let's go back to. Let's talk a bit about Angola for a bit. So Angola is located in the west central coast of Africa, of southern Africa. It's the second largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world after Brazil in both area and population, and it's actually Africa's seventh largest country by land size. In terms of African states, it's bordered by Namibia to the north, the Democratic Republic, the DRC to the north, Zambia to the in the Atlantic Ocean to the west. It also has its own unique exclave province, and that being Cabinda, that borders the Republic of the Congo and the Democratic and the DRC. The capital, most populous city in all of Angola is Lunada. Of course, it's this city has now Angola has been inhabited since the Paleolithic times, but it mainly grew up with the Bantu and expanded all across the area and formed many confederations. But of course, the Portuguese came around this area in the 16th century. The Portuguese have been around these area for hundreds of years. But of course, it's had some bit of interesting history with anti-colonial struggle during the Cold War, and then a massive civil war that's lasted for multiple decades, and such. Of course, after the Civil War in 2002, Angola emerged as a relatively stable constitutional republic, and its economy is among the fastest growing in the world, with major trade partners with China, EU, and US. However, it's very uneven economic growth, and it's one of the most unequal in all of Africa. It has one of the lowest life expectancy and highest infant mortality in the world. Of course, Angolan culture is also reflective of both its Portuguese influence with indigenous customs and traditions. So definitely pretty interesting about Angola, of course. Definitely a very interesting country, and definitely one to learn more about as we're flying here today. So let's talk a little bit about Angola's history for a bit. Parts history. So modern Angola was populated predominantly by nomadic Khoi and San peoples prior to the Bantu migrations. Khoi and San peoples were both hunter-gatherers and were practicing pastoralism or cultivation of crops. Of course, in the first millennium CE, they were displaced by the Bantu peoples that arrived from the north, which was originating around Nigeria. Bantu speak brought a lot of cultivation of bananas and taro, as well as maintenance of large cattle herds to Angola's central island and plains. Due to the number of inhibiting geographic factors, Angola, intermingling with the pre-colonial tribes remain quite rare, mainly with harsh traversable land, hot and humid climate, and plethora of diseases. Of course, after the settlement of the migrants, a number of political entities developed, the best one of those being the Kingdom of the Congo, based in Angola. Yes, the Kingdom of Congo, even though it was in Congo, was actually based in was now Angola and extended upwards to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Gabon. And has established trade routes with overseas states and civilizations up and down the coast in Western Africa. It even reached Great Zimbabwe in the Mutapa Empire, which is now Zimbabwe, though it had little to no transport trade. There are a couple of other little kingdoms all around this area too, such as the Kingdom of Kakongo, North, and the Kingdom of Mataba. filled with kingdoms all around the part of Angola. So yes, contrary to what people believe, much of Africa wasn't unified. It was tons of different kingdoms, civilizations all across Africa, which had their own unique culture and its own heritage too. But of course, the Europeans came around here, and believe it or not, it was the Portuguese. And the first Portuguese to arrive in this area was Portuguese explorer Diogo Cam. Reached this area in 1484. In the previous year, the Portuguese had established relations with the Kingdom of the Congo, which was stretched from Gabon over to the Kwanza River in modern-day Angola to the south. And the Portuguese built their own trade post at Soya, which is the most northernmost city of Angola outside the exclave. And then in 1575, Paulo Dias de Novas founded what is now Lunada. It was known back then as Sao Paulo de Lunada. The 100 family of settlers and 400 soldiers. They also founded the city of Benguela in 1587. It was fortified as well. As an authoritative state, the Kingdom of the Congo was highly centralized on the monarchy. It had strong economy based on the industries of copper, ivory, salt, hides, and to a lesser extent, slaves. And the transition from feudal system slavery to capitalism in Portugal proved crucial to the history of the kingdom. As the relations with the Congo and Portugal grew in the 16th century, trade between the kingdoms also increased, with mainly palm cloth, copper, and ivory, as well as an increasing number of slaves. But of course, as well. And apparently, much of the slave trade was pretty much internalized, but with more development with Portuguese settlement in South Tone, Congo became a major source of slaves for the island's trade and plantations. And King Alfonso continued to expand as well. Its borders expanded south and east, and the expansion of its population allowed the ruler to have centralized power and monarchy, and established royal market trades. And the slave trade continued to increase even more so as its primary and arguably the sole economic sector of the country. A major obstacle for that was that slaves were the only commodity for which the European powers were willing to trade, as it lacked international currency. Congolese nobles could buy slaves with the national currency of shells, traded for slaves, and can be sold for international currency. So as a result, with slave trade being the only commodity that Europeans were invested in the 16th century, Congo economy was unable to diversify or later industrialize outside sectors where it was evolved, like arms. And as a result, it led to a struggle with the Kingdom of the Congo, even more so. And by the 17th century, the supply of foreign slaves captured by the Congolese was waning. And it led to an even bigger, more tyrannical enslavement of entirely free citizens. It caused a lot more people to disrespect the authority. Portuguese also established other settlements here in modern-day Angola, forts and trading posts on the coast, trading in slaves for plantations, and a lot of these slave dealers proved to be large numbers of slaves for the Portuguese Empire. And what do you think a lot of those slaves ended up being? You guessed it, Brazil. Of course, despite Portugal's territorial changes in Angola, its control was pretty minimal. However, during the Portuguese Restoration War, using a local alliance to protect people, Dutch West India Company occupied Lunada in 1641. Of course, when you go a couple hundred years later, the slave trade was then abolished in Angola in 1806. In 1854, the colonial government freed all of its existing slaves. 4 years later, a progressive administration under Portugal abolished slavery together. However, a lot of these decrees are unenforceable. The Portuguese had to rely on the British Royal Navy to become the blockade of Africa to ban slave trade. By the mid-19th century, Portugal established a dominion as far north as the Congo River and far south as Moçambique. And of course, the Portuguese tried to actually win the colonies of Mozambique and and Angola, but the British and Belgians opposed it. And of course, the Portuguese also had to come up against a lot more resistance from the various peoples. Of course, the Berlin Conference was the major part. If you guys were aware about the Berlin Conference, you all probably know that this was the conference that set up the modern day borders of Africa, as we know it. And Portuguese claims in Angola, but many details resolved into the 20s. And the trade between Portugal and its African territories increased thanks to protective tariffs, leading to increased development and a wave of new immigrants. So, pretty important stuff for the 19th century as well. Um, of course, in 1925, there was an expedition that happened during this time. It was conducted by American natural explorer Arthur Vernet. And between 1949 and 1943, Portuguese army operations against the Macabal people happened during this time, and they captured nearly 3,500 were taken prisoner, including women and children, and put them in concentration camps. Many of them died in captivity from undernourishment, violence, and forced labor. 600 of those were sent into Sao Tome and Principe, while hundreds were also sent to a camp in what is now Damba, where 26% died. Of course, Angola was under colonial law. Black Angolans were forbidden from forming political parties and labor unions. While the first national movement did not take place after World War II, feared by a largely westernized Portuguese-speaking urban class, however, what truly grew was during the Cold War. And eventually, there were multiple revolts that happened throughout the 1960s. But a big part of it was by the National Front for the Liberation of Angola, or FNLA. Congo with refugees from Zaire. They benefited from the favorable political circumstances. Many of them were helped grow the freedom of Angola and build a large power base along the large amount of communities here as well. Also during this time was also the rise of another party, popular movement for the liberation of Angola, the MPLA, came from the north, formed as a resistance movement by the Angolan Communist Party. But eventually, Angola did have an independence. Angola did have its war of independence during this time in the 1960s. Of course, there are three major factions in Portugal's for Angola's independence by military fractional. Through the MPLA, UNITA, and FNLA in 1975, three different parties gained influence for Angola's population in its war of independence. Eventually, once the Portugal's Estado Novo collapsed in 1974, thanks to the revolution, Angola became independent. However, as you guys know, it did not take very long for the three factions to go against each other. There was a ceasefire between the three in 1975 between the head leaders in Mombasa to form a coalition government, but of course, that ceasefire allowed for all three factions to take advantage for strategic positions, arms, and military forces. And all of it would eventually bleed over in August 1965 when MPLA requested Soviets for ground troops. So the Cubans had to be the ones to send the troops for the Cubans, actually. And eventually, it led into multiple Civil War battles decade. Eventually, thanks to the aid of the Soviets and Cuban aid, the MPLA drove its opponents from the capital and mainly wiped out the FNLA forces. And eventually was ruled by the MPLA with its Marxist-Leninist state, nationalization, and more. But of course, in the 1990s, the MPLA abandoned its Marxist ideology in 1990 and allowed social democracy to be the new platform for Angola, for its new system. But of course, the Civil War had to end, and it ends in 2002. Government troops killed the leader in the Mexico province, in the UNITA, and the MPLA consented to allow the moratorium understanding and eventually end up ending the Angolan war, finally ending the civil war that's lasted for decades. Of course, the country also had a serious humanitarian crisis. As a result of the prolonged war, the abundance of minefields and more led to a lot of humanitarian issues throughout Angola throughout the years. There's been a couple more issues, including a drought in 2016 that affected 1.4 million people across 7 of its 18 provinces. Of course, nowadays, the president of Angola, the MPLA won another majority, and President Lourenco won another 5-year term in 2022. So that is history of Angola. So let's take a look at what's going on outside. But yeah, the scenery here looks really here looks really cool. All that. Pretty cool stuff. I don't think we're too far from our first stop. I don't think we're too far from our first stop. So we're doing pretty good, guys. So for this weekend, of course, I'm going to have a pretty chill weekend. But I will tell you some biz stuff. For sports at least, I do want to cover some biz sports. So the Colts this week, they are now 3-0 to start the year for the Indianapolis Colts. And now they're going to be taking on the LA Rams. It's going to be a good game. They lost against the Colts last week. Tough home loss for the Rams, but I think they could beat the Colts. But if the Colts go 4-0, this would be an absolute insane start of the season. The last time they got a start like that was 2009 when they went to the Super Bowl. So it should be pretty good. So do um for um for for college football as well. Indiana absolutely destroyed Illinois. It was funny, but biggest matchup this week for college football: Oregon Penn State. It is the biggest matchup this week. Third ranked Oregon take on third ranked Penn State. Massive game. Indiana is going to play Iowa at Kinnick. Should be a good game. But Indiana football's been absolutely white hot this year. Alabama Georgia should be good. Should be a good one, and so is LSU Ole Miss. Should be some pretty good games this week. As for Louisville, the University of Louisville, they'll be taking on Pittsburgh. So it should be good. For other sports, for Louisville City Football Club, Louisville City will be back tomorrow against Detroit City. They've been absolutely been tearing things up in the USL. Louisville City. Good. In terms of other leagues, the Premier League is going on, and starting Everton will be playing their game against West Ham on Monday. So I have to wait all the way to Monday for Everton to start playing, of course. Should be a pretty good game. They're 10th. Isn't bad. So there's that as well. For La Liga, Espanyol are playing later today at 2 o'clock. They're taking on their local rival Girona, who are last in La Liga. They've been absolutely terrible, so I think Espanyol could probably get a good result. I think the Pentarcos get a good result against Girona. And again, it's a rivalry, so anything can happen, but it should be a pretty good game for Espanyol. Should be a good match. Then Frankfurt is playing today. Is playing also tomorrow as well. Is Eintracht Frankfurt. They will be playing tomorrow at 12:30 against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And Frankfurt is 6. Not a good. The last 2 games were pretty rough. There you go, guys. That's kind of the sports stuff I wanted to discuss, of course. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and descend down to around 2,000 feet. I'm gonna probably back together. So I think we're gonna head to our first stop of the day here. Go ahead and we're gonna make our way down to our first stop of the day. We're gonna be flying into the city of Benguela. So Benguela, of course, is it's one of Angola's biggest cities, located in western Angola, capital of its own province, population of 555,000 people. Of course, it was founded in 1617 as South Lepe de Angola by the Portuguese under Manuel Pereira, 8th governor. It was long been a center of important trade, mainly with slaves to Brazil and Cuba. Um, One interesting thing about this place, it also has its own railway. Was built in the early 20th century to connect the city in Lobito and it achieved great success when it linked to the copper belt of Katanga, DR Congo, and Zambia. Of course, the 20th century attracted a lot of quality businesses and professionals to its economy, like sisal, fishing. But that lasted until 1974 with the Angolan Civil War, and it closed the railroad. And it also had a lot of refugees. Of course, nowadays it's been considerably more peaceful, and they restored the railway, of course. But it was one of the centers of the Portuguese trade to the African interior, and it still is a big deal, especially with crops like coffee, corn, sisal, which is a type of plant out of Mexico, but it grew a lot in Africa, sugarcane, and tobacco. You also have manganese as well, is traded in the city. The industries local to the city include fish processing and sugarcane milling, as well as pottery, soaps, are all major parts. So yeah, definitely pretty interesting city to learn more about, of course. We'll fly over the city briefly, and we'll head our way over to FN Foxtrot November Charlie Tango, and we'll land there. That will be our first. So I hope you're having some really cool plans this weekend. Murphy's going to be back on later today. He'll be doing another one of his streams. He'll be doing a G33 jet trainer flight across the Alps. And he'll be doing it across the Alps from all through multiple stops and destinations. Should be a very intense flight, but pretty tough. And then Allison's gonna be back tomorrow. Shout out for her. But Allison's back with another one of her around the world trips from Anchorage over to Yakutat and Sitka. I've been to Sitka, beautiful city, and it's got a really cool airport to land. Should be an absolutely gorgeous flight across fjords of Southeast Alaska. Should be an absolutely stunning flight. This should be a good one. Here we go, guys. We are finally going down altitude, of course. Yes, we're into Angola's. We'll land there and we'll prepare for the next leg. We're going to get talking about Angola's geography first. So, really interested to talk more about all this stuff with you guys. So here's our next city. This is the city of Benguela. And prepare for the turn. Here and hey, Splasher6, happy Friday to you, my dude. Good to see you. Happy Friday. You guys don't know Splasher6, a longtime close friend of mine in the community. Great dude. Love all the stuff he's going to be playing on here as well. We're prepared for our first landing of the day. Welcome on in, Splasher. I hope you're having plans for this weekend, of course. I know you're having your fly day again today. Go ahead and prepare for the landing, of course. we go, and we're going to crash. Go ahead and prepare for landing. Oh, no worries, Splasher. Nice, a class reunion. Holy crap. 45 years since your last class reunion. Wow. Talk about a long way class reunion, that's for sure. So yeah, we'll be stopping here for just a minute or two as we get ready for the next leg. We'll be stopping here. We'll be up in a minute. But if anyone else wants to join on in, here's our server. Let's see if the bot has anything like that. Yep, and here's our route for this. We'll be preparing for leg number 2 shortly. So it should be a good course. Done. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready for the second leg of France. You're at a dinosaur school? Wow. Really? A dinosaur? Wow. So we're gonna go ahead and prepare for the next leg. So we're gonna fly around 6,000 feet for the next leg. Our heading's gonna be so we're gonna go ahead and prepare for the next leg. We're gonna take off here and we're gonna head over to our next section. We're finally off. See where the PT-12 is going to. We're going to climb up to 6,000, and then we'll talk more about Angola first. It's a bit of a sunset right now. Here. We're going to climb to 6,000, and then we'll. We're really climbing through this pretty good, 2,800 feet. Definitely pretty. So we'll talk a little bit more about Angola here. We'll talk about its geography as bit as we climb up to 8,000 feet. So, of course, one interesting thing about Angola is its geography. You see, Angola is actually pretty big. It's 1.24 billion square kilometers, or 481,000 square miles. It is the world's 22nd largest country in the world. It's comparable to the size. It's comparable to its fellow African country of Mali. Comparable to its fellow African nation of Mali in size. Or it's twice the size of France or of Texas. Yes, this country here is twice as big as Texas. Yeah, it's actually a massive country. It lies mainly between latitudes of 4 degrees and 18 degrees south and longitudes 12 to 24 degrees. Of course, it has multiple countries bordering it. One of the big things is that this country has 4 primary geographical regions here in the country. Those regions being the arid coastal lowland that stretches from Namibia to Luanda and characterized by low points and terraces, the green hills and mountains, rising inland from the coast to the Great Escarpment, a large area of highland plains dry savanna called the High Plateau, which is eastward and southeast from the escarpment, and rainforest in the north and in the exclave. Are the 4 major natural regions here in Angola. And the highest point of Angola is Morro de Monco at 2,600 meters high. The highest point on here, which is around 8,600 feet, located in the western part of the country. Pretty interesting stuff about Angola. Forest also covers around 53% of the total land area in Angola. In terms of climate, Angola, just like the rest of tropical Africa, it experiences distinct and alternate rainy and dry seasons. North, the rainy season may last as long as 7 months, usually from September to April, with perhaps a brief slackening in January and February. In the south, the rainy season begins from November to February. The dry season is characterized by heavy morning mist and precipitation higher in the north, but at any latitude it is greater than the interior along the coast and increases with altitude. Temperatures fall within the distance of the equator and tend to rise closer to the Atlantic Ocean. Thus, at Soyo, at the mouth of the Congo, is around 26 degrees Celsius, but is under 60 degrees at Huambo in the Central Plateau. The coolest months of the year are July and August, the middle of the dry season, where frost may even form at higher altitude. Due to climate change, Angola's average temperature has increased 1.4 degrees Celsius since 1951 and expected to keep rising, which means Angola is vulnerable to climate change impacts like floods, erosions, droughts, and more. And rising sea levels could potentially threaten the coastal areas, where around 50% of all of Angola lives around the coast. So pretty interesting stuff. And finally, Angola does have wildlife too. The flora and fauna of Angola. Angola, and the flora and fauna, those are characteristic of the greater part of tropical Africa. As far south as Bengal, the coast is rich in oil palms and mangroves. They grow a lot of those here in Angola. Oil palms, if you don't know, are very popular for palm oil. They grow a lot of palm oil. Um, of course, in the south, you find thorn scrub, a lot of scrub area as well. Rubber vines in tree are very abundant. But in some districts, their numbers are reduced by primitive methods by native collectors of rubber. More. In terms of fauna, there's a bunch of animal species that live in Angola. Notably, lions, leopards, cheetah, elephant, giraffe, rhinoceros, hippos, buffalo, zebra, and kudu, as well as many types of antelope, wild pig, ostrich, crocodile. It once served as a habitat for the endangered African wild dog, which is now deemed to be extinct in our country thanks to human activities between 1965 to 1991. And it's also home to fish like the barbel, bream, and African yellowfish. Make their homes here in Angola. That's what's going on with Africa geography. Of course, Angola does have its own national animal, and that is the giant sable antelope. Now, it is the national symbol of Angola, and is regarded by a lot of the people all across Angola. Why some of them still survive. It was actually first described by foreigners in 1960 by a British engineer naturalist Frank Varlin. Um, of course, this is a critically endangered animal. There's only a population around 100 of those being in Angadala National Park in Angola. So something interesting about these antelopes, of course, their horns are quite majestic. They can their male horns are massive and curved, and they can grow between 81 to 165 centimeters, 32 to 65 inches, compared to the much shorter female. And a lot of the bulls is black, giving them their unique coloration and shape. They live a lot of the forest near waters. Yes, they are in danger, but it is a huge national symbol of the. Pretty cool stuff. That's part of Angola's natural geography. Really cool stuff here. This is the highlands part of Angola. This is where some of the more hilly parts of the country. So, of course, on Sunday, we'll be covering Mount Rainier National Park. We'll be back on Sunday for our series. We'll be covering the next park of our national park journey. We'll be covering Mount Rainier National Park. Taking the NX Cup for that one. We'll take something a bit more powerful to get up to 15,000 feet. I might take the Plus PC6 if it. I'll check on Saturday if it works. If it does, I'll take the PC6 with us and fly over some of the peaks, and we'll land in Rainier, of course. We'll have a landing at Mount Rainier, so it should be a lot of fun. So we'll be back Sunday, and our next country after today is going. Our next country after today the next country will be Argentina. We'll be heading to Buenos Aires Friday, so should be pretty cool to visit Argentina. We'll get to fly to Buenos Aires. Should be really cool. Should be doing pretty well here. So I hope you guys all do having some really cool plans this weekend. Stuff. we're going to get ready for the next part, of course. So in terms of the next thing to talk about Angola, of course, will be their government. So government, speaking, for their government, it is a republic. Angolan government has three main branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The executive branch is composed of the president, vice president, and the council of ministers. The legislative branch of Angola is mainly comprised of a unicameral legislature, the National Assembly of Angola, which is the unicameral legislature, elected from multi-member province-wide and nationwide constituencies, in proportional representation. For decades, its mainly power was concentrated for the presidency. After 3 years of rule, the President Dos Santos stepped down from MPLA leadership, and the leader of the winning part, the parliamentary election, would be the next president. And eventually, the MPLA selected João Lourenço as its successor, who's now still the president of Angola. Of course, the Constitution of 2010 established the broad outlines of government structure and delineates the rights of citizens, and it was based on the Portuguese law and customary law, but is weak, fragmented. And courts can only operate in 12 of the more than 140 municipalities. The Supreme Court serves as the tribunal, and the Constitutional Court does not hold the powers of judicial review. The governors of the 18 provinces are appointed by the president. They did a new constitution in 2010 to replace the old one. Definitely something pretty interesting as well. That is Angola's government here in the country. Something pretty interesting to note. Next part about Angola we'll talk about here is been the economy of Angola. So let's talk a bit about Angola's economy for a bit. Economically speaking, Angola has diamonds, gold, copper, rich wildlife, and fossil fuels. Of course, since independence, oil and diamonds have been the major source of Angola's economy resources. Of course, smallholder and plantation agriculture dropped during the Civil War, but had recovered after 2002. In recent years, has moved from disarray caused by the Civil War to become the fastest-growing country in Africa, one of the fastest-growing in the world at the time. With an average GDP growth of 20% between 2005 and 2007, its highest GDP growth average growth rate was at 11.1%. Of course, in recent years, it has dropped down a bit due to the global recession and such. The biggest trade partner for Angola is China, and is a significant part of export destinations as well as imports, mainly crude oil and diamonds. While China exports mechanical, electronic products, machinery parts, and construction materials. Although the country's economy has grown significantly since political stability in 2002, mainly due to the fast earnings of the oil sector, Angola still faces a pretty big, huge social and economic problems. These things are the result of the armed conflict. However, high poverty rates and blatant social inequality stems from the present authoritarianism, neo-patriarchal practices, and corruption. Of course, that means that Angola's economy is very unequal, with the main benefactors being political, administrative, economic, and military power holders who accumulated and continued enormous wealth. These differences pose a serious structural problem for the Angolan economy, thanks to a lot of the economy is in Lunada, the neighboring Bengal province. In recent years, one of the big consequences of its disparities is the increase in private investments abroad. In Angolan society, much of its investments are actually abroad. As a result. So in terms of natural resources, of course, Angola has plenty of natural resources here in the country. One of the biggest parts of natural resources are diamonds, and oil make up 60% of the economy and makes up almost all of its revenue in export. In fact, Angola produced around 1.4 million barrels of oil a day in late 2005, and it grew up to nearly 2 million barrels in 2007. And much of it is controlled by the Senegal Group, which is owned by the government. And of course, Angola is now even a member of OPEC. In 2022, the country produced around 1.1 million barrels of oil per day. In fact, Angola's production of oil increased so significantly that Angola is actually China's biggest supplier of oil in Angola. Of course, growing oil revenues also created a lot of the corruption, and a lot of that as well. Due to market control, the company ends up getting a lot of oil. Also, access to biocapacity in Angola is actually higher than the world average, around 1.9 global hectares per person per territory, more than the average. So yes, they use a lot of it. Definitely something pretty interesting to get out of this for has been. In terms of agriculture, of course, Angola agriculturally is an area with plenty of opportunity. As Angola requires 4 million tons of grain, however, it only grows about 55% of the maize and 20% of the white wheat. A lot of it was definitely because it was damaged before. Before the Civil War independence, it was a breadbasket for Southern Africa and a major exporter of bananas, coffee, sisal. But the 3 decades of Civil War destroyed the fertile countryside, and a lot of it was littered with landmines and drove millions into the cities. So they now had to rely on food import. South Africa and Portugal. As a result. That's definitely not a good thing. The Angolan Civil War allowed death to the agricultural activity. In the Civil War, a lot of them went to subsistence farming and has been dependent ever since import. That's definitely a pretty tragic way. We're getting more of the nighttime stuff here. We don't really fly like that at night, so this is definitely a pretty unique opportunity. We don't really fly at night. But we'll be flying like this for the rest of this leg, and then we'll turn back to daylight for sunrise. Fly our way to Lunata as we approach sunrise. For north, we're just around 189 nautical miles from our final destination at Lunata. I don't really have that much farther, guys. I'm very excited for where this journey takes us. So we'll be preparing for Angola for a bit. One interesting thing about Angola, speaking about its geography, of course, one of the more interesting things about Angola that I've learned about is actually the national flag, of course. Of course, it's three main colors: red, black, and yellow. The symbol is emblem contains a machete caused by a half cogwheel and a 5-point star. It was adopted in 1975 when it became independent. So the symbol of so the changes, the charge is yellow. So the different symbols of the flag. The machete represents the peasants, agriculture, and the War of Independence. The cogwheel represents workers and industry, and the star represents international solidarity and progress. is the symbol of Angola flag. Angola's population, by the way, is around 39 million people, which is the 39th largest country in the world by population. But it's not population dense. Only just 157th world. It's also the 58th largest economy in the world, with 402 billion US dollars. 58. And its national currency is the Angolan kwanza. National. Definitely something I wanted to point out to you. Pretty good here. Go through more of the hills and cliffs. I got the lane lights. So far, doing pretty good here. We're getting closer to our second and last leg of the last leg of the trip. Yeah, we're getting to the highlands part of Angola. So, got a lot of stuff. Hills all over the country. Like I said, we'll take this nice and slow throughout this trip. We're basically getting pretty close to our next stop. Our next stop is Foxtrot November Tango. We're right outside the city of Kalulo, here in Angola. Getting pretty close to here, of course. Let's see how we're going to keep holding on here. Here we are, guys. We're about to get to our next stop. Going pitch black out here. Yeah, it's completely night. First time I've really done much night flying in this sim. Definitely pretty cool though. All the stars and stuff. How cool is that, guys? We're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg, of course, and second to last leg here. We're going to land at our next stop. We're about to reach our next stop here, of course. Foxtrot, November Tango. I think we're about to land very shortly. So I don't know. I like this trip, but honestly, I don't know. I may want to think about for a bit. Like, problem is, if I do this, this will take really long for me. About to get closer to the series, of course. We're going to go ahead and prepare for landing here very shortly. Hard to see the runway from down here. Here we go, guys. We're about to make our second to last day. Here it is. I think that's our airport down here. That's our airport down here. Hard to see at night, of course. There we go, and we'll make the landing here. We'll just stop. And we're down. We made it to our second stop of the day here. It'll be, hey, Red Bear, good to see ya. So we're actually doing our flying series in Angola for a bit. We'll be preparing for our next flight. We're going to simulate for a little bit. Oh, nice. DC-3 flyover. Oh, that's fantastic, Red Baron. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're preparing for this weekend. So we're here in Angola for a bit. So that's going to be where we're going to be doing here today. We're just doing a flyover of Angola. So I hope you're all having a good week here today too. So that's where we're going to. We're going to be back up in the sky for just a few minutes. So it should be a good time here as well. We got one last flight to Lunada coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare for the second to last leg of the trip. We're going to be flying around 5,000 feet, of course. And we're going to be at 300 in heading. There we go. We're going to fly over to 5,000 feet. This will be our last leg. And it was the landing gear thing. Make sure it wasn't hitting anything underneath. So we'll be flying over here, and we'll fly for 5,000 feet. So that will be our next. So this here is going to be, we're going to follow this for another 122 nautical miles to the capital city. So I'm thinking about something else for the channel. So while I do like this series, I feel like my only issue with this is it's going to take forever. Plus, I got a lot of vacations and trips and stuff. So I think, honestly, I want to think this over this weekend. Because I'm thinking something else instead and do something more of my wheelhouse than just sports. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do I'm thinking instead of this series on Fridays, maybe we do the biggest sport events this weekend. Which sport or what events can be the biggest this weekend, and I'll do a sporting series. That's what I'm going to do. Because I like doing this stuff. The all country stuff's neat and all, but the problem is I also have a project to do too. So I want to do something that doesn't require as much note taking and much route planning as much. So I'm thinking about doing a sports related series. I want to do that instead. I'll think about it, but I'll let you guys know in the Discord what I want to do. But I'm thinking that I want to do more sports stuff since that's something I really enjoy. And that's something I wanted to do too. It'll still be GA, of course. I'll try to keep it as general aviation as possible. Because GA is still the heart of the channel, and I want to still keep it that way. So mainly, what I'm thinking about on Fridays instead of this, I probably want to do something a little different for the series. So, for example, for me at least, I could look for sport events for different sports, and it wouldn't just be it could be American sports, it could be it could be American football, college football, all that sort of stuff. Um, it could be that. It could be or ice hockey, baseball. It could be um, it could be soccer or football as you call it. Maybe for example, I could do some of that, some big games between some of the international clubs. I could do one or two of these for quick flights as well. For example, if I wanted to do the sports series on Saturday, let's say on Friday, I'll look for the biggest games this weekend. For example, for soccer or football, or call it. On Saturday, I could fly around to Madrid because there's a massive game in Spanish La Liga. The Madrid derby come up. Atletico versus Real Madrid. That could be one too. That would be like something I would do. Fly around and fly over the stadiums and fly over that. I'll adjust to that. Or if it's on a Friday, I could do today. I could also do some other type of league. Maybe it's not a big league. It could be a minor league sort of thing too. What I'm trying to get at is I want to do something like that, which I will talk about the teams. I'll talk about why this is an important matchup. I won't just pick any game. I pick ones that are especially important. Either it's a big rivalry or it's two top teams going against you. That sort of thing. That's what I'm thinking about. I wanted to do on that Friday instead. I'll still be keeping the National Park Series since I really love the National Park Series. It's not often I get to fly out in the backcountry and just enjoy doing that. I love to do that sort of stuff. I want to keep it that way. So I'll think about it this weekend. I'll let you know on Monday if I want to change it. But I want to do something I would enjoy, and I think it'll also be variety. It will still be like the all countries and fly different locations, but it'll be do something that I want to actually enjoy. Because sports are a big part of me. I'm a big sports fan, so I may do that on the Fridays. I hope you guys do understand. Okay? I think that would be a really good idea. And two, we can talk about different teams and we can talk about different sports. Do something I'm enjoying, and I'll do as much variety in sports as we can. I think that would be the key. And don't worry, Typhon, if you're listening, we'll do some NHL stuff too. I bet that you keep an eye on the NHL. We'll do some pretty big stuff. You know, the NHL season starts on Tuesday. Will be starting the NHL season, so we might. Problem is, it won't be enough to do. Maybe I'll do Canadians Maple Leafs. One of these times, I will do Canadians Maple Leafs. As two big Canadians. But yeah, I'll look at the schedules and I'll look and see which ones I want to. And that'll be a new series, I think. It'll be cool, and the nice thing too would be we have different places to fly, and it also saves me from doing tons of notes. I'll still research and I still do that sort of stuff, but I don't have to do is be a lot simpler. For example, I don't know if I get this in my dates, but October 18th, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund should be an absolutely enormous game. Clubs. That would be one I would do. And I'll do something with notes. But that would be tough though, because for that weekend, I also got Liverpool, Manchester United. That's also on the schedule. The weekend. So I'll pick the games for the weekend, of course. I'll try and include as much scheduling, but I would love to do that. That would be. But yeah, I like to do something I'm more interested in myself. I'd rather do the things I like than doing something I don't. I still want to keep GA since that's part of my channel. So I, I'm enough rambling about this now. I want to finish up the rest of the Angola notes. So we'll be doing a bit of a notes. So let's start with Angola's culture. So Angola's culture is heavily influenced by Portuguese culture, especially in language and religion. In the culture of the indigenous group of Angola, particularly Bantu culture. Now, there's many different ethnic communities that have their own, including that of the Umbundu, Bakongo, and others that, to varying degrees, maintain their own traits, traditions, languages, but in the cities, A mixed culture has been emerging since colonial times, mixing between Portuguese heritage with African roots. One pretty big part is the National Festival of Angola Culture has been resumed in 2014, and it is a culture for peace and development of Angola. So one interesting thing about Angola is sports. So sports are a big part of Angola. It's the most popular sport. The second most popular sport is basketball. Actually, is its second most popular sport. The national team has won the Afrobasket League 11 times and has the most titles of any African team. It's Africa's best. As a top team in Africa, it's a competitor at the Summer Olympic Games, and it's one of the first competitive leagues in Africa. In football, it hosted the 2010 Africa Cup, and its national team even once qualified for the World Cup in 2006. However, they were eliminated in the group stage. But they have won a couple of cups, the Southern African Cups, and even finished in the 2011 African Nations Championship. So definitely pretty cool. Angola also has done so in women's handball and has appeared in the Summer Olympics for 7 years. So yeah, Angolan culture definitely pretty cool and definitely pretty interesting. That is Angola's culture. In terms of other things, I forgot to put that here. In terms of musical stuff, um, Angola has a lot of influence from Lusophone countries, but um, but one big part about Angolan music is the samba, which it is the predecessor to those of samba and kuduro Africa, Angola, and it's popular now as it was back in the old days of Angola, even prior to independence. And various seminars emerge each year in Angola. The most popular Angolan artist of samba is Barcelo de Carvalho, who is known internationally as Bonga. But Angola actually has a pretty unique musical heritage. In terms of cuisine, Angola's cuisine has several major dishes, including funge, which is cassava or corn flour, mufete, grilled fish, plantain, sweet potato, cassava, and gari, halulu, Kawamba de Ganaha, Hisika, and Mikuna sorbet are some of the popular, or baobab sorbet are some of the main dishes of Angola. They're pretty cool as well. That covers Angola's notes for a bit. Fly our way into the capital city. Yeah, definitely we're getting up to some of the scenery and stuff here in Angola. We're just 71 nautical miles from the capital city of Lunada to wrap up this. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the day, of course. We're getting closer to our final stop. The 69 mile. I hope you guys have really cool plans for the weekend, of course. Don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I'll be watching some games on the TV stuff. So, so let's go ahead and get ready to go ahead and get to. Yeah, we finally got some sunlight now in. The sun's finally rising. We can definitely see some of this here in Angola. Pretty cool. So I might do something a bit interesting as well. Maybe I cover some of the Canadian national parks in Canada. Because there's a lot of really cool ones in Canada. I want probably after the one we do in the United States, I may want to look for ones in Canada because I think it'd be pretty cool to. So there are 37 of them in the country. And it'll be very similar to what we're doing here for the America's parks, but I may want to do them for Canada too. Canada has some really because of course Canada's outside the United States. I think the other great place is maybe we do those in Canada and Europe and look for some of the national parks in Canada and Europe too. That way I can do some more bush activities, and I want to do some more bush related for that one. I think national parks would be one because I like to do that. Maybe do some of the trails too. Maybe bring that back as well. Maybe bring back the Hidden Trail series, scenic trails. Do some more of that. I think, yeah, I think that would be great. I think that would be fantastic. Um, yeah, I wanted to because I love the American national parks because the U.S. has so many really good national parks. Canada would be great. I think Europe's got some really good ones too. I know they may not be as big as the ones in the United States, of course, but I mean Europe's got some really great parks in Europe to visit. Even if they're not as big and magical as like the ones in the United States, Europe has some really big ones. Albania's got a few. Finland. I'll probably pick the most notable ones from each of those countries. And we'll do some GA and exploration of those. I think that would be fantastic. That and the sports stuff on Friday could be really fun too. That way, it adds some much needed variety to the channel and something I like. So I think that would be good. Like, I don't mind this series, but it's just sometimes you get some really good ones, not. Plus, it just it's just with my autism, I kind of lose interest sometime in some things pretty quickly. So, so look at the schedules for. Yeah, I'll look for schedules and stuff. So I'll probably get that sports series started next week. Probably gonna archive this. This would be the last episode, and I'll probably play. So now we're going to be going to the capital of Angola here. We're going to be heading to the capital city of Angola, our last slide of today. The capital city of Angola, Luanda. So really interesting city. Is the capital largest city in the country, as well as the primary port, industrial, culture, urban center of Angola. This Portuguese city has a population of 2.8 billion people, and get this, it's the most populous Portuguese-speaking capital city in the world. Yes, it's the most populous Portuguese capital in the most populous city outside of Brazil. That's right. This is bigger of a city than Lisbon and Brasilia. Yes, bigger than those two cities. In 2020, the population reached more than 8.3 million people live in this city. Absolutely huge. And it's one of the oldest colonial cities in Africa, dating all the way back to 1576, when it was founded as Sao Paulo de Associação de Lonada by Portuguese explorer Paulo Dias de Novas. This city served as the center of the slave trade in Brazil before it was prohibited. So a lot of slaves headed to Brazil, ended up here, places. Today it's been going under a massive reconstruction since the war ended, and many new developments are taking place that will alter the skyline. Industries include agricultural products, beverage production, textile, cement, car assembly plants, construction materials, and more have been built in this city, as well as being a major economic center for oil in the city. However, a lot of people don't know this, but this is actually one of the most expensive cities in the world for expats. And it seems kind of weird to think this city is actually more expensive than others. But yes, this city is actually very expensive to live in. It's thanks to the high cost of goods and security are the big part. That's right. This city is more expensive to live foreigners than Seoul, Geneva, and Shanghai. Yes, an African city is more expensive than all those. And those costs have actually been the reason why there's so much income inequality in this city too. And all the tariffs make it even more expensive. In fact, for example, a half-liter tub of ice cream cone costed around, get this, 31 US bucks get a half-liter tub of vanilla ice cream. Um, if you were to get one of these in the United States, a half-gallon tub in the United States, it will cost you um, $7 in the United States. Yes, 7 US bucks for a 1 gallon thing. Yeah, that's expensive to live in. Crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy expensive. Hey, Wolf Hub, good to see ya. Wolf Hub blog post, good to see ya. I hope you're doing well. I hope first time chat, good to have you here for doing the All Country series. But I'm thinking about actually I'm gonna discontinue it. It just kind of lost interest. Like it's cool and all, but I'm just not really interested. I just lost interest. Like it's just not something I really wanted to do. So I'm gonna discontinue it and I'm gonna do something new on Fridays instead. Something I'm a lot more passionate. So, but I hope you're doing well, my dude. I hope you're having good plans for the weekend and such. I hope you've got a really good weekend for you coming up. Yeah, so we're entering into Lunada finally. Finally here, of course. Yes, I'm doing very, very good. I stream on Fridays and Sundays on Twitch. Here's my Discord if you're interested. Join alongside my flights. We're also doing a national park series on Sundays, and that will be still ongoing thing. I love the national park series. We'll be in Mount Rainier National Park Sunday, so it'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, stay tuned. I definitely follow along this community. I definitely appreciate all you guys here. You guys have all. Here it is, guys, the capital of Angola. And yeah, this will be the final flight of this series, so yeah, I just did discontinuance. This here is the capital city. beautiful sunrise. This is where a lot of the development here in the city, right in the coast. You can find hotels, high rises, and stuff all over the city. Here we go, guys. Go. We're going to make our one last landing here. Yeah, I missed having my music in the background. I kind of missed it. So we'll land here at runway 23. Actually, it's too hot. So we're down. That's it, everyone. That will wrap up this series for a bit. So we're going to be taking a break here, and we're going to wrap up the stream here. Welcome to Angola and Lunada. So this will be the last time we'll have this series. I decided, it doesn't really interest me. So we're going to discontinue it. So we will be returning back on Sunday. We'll be in, we're going to be in visiting Mount Rainier National Park. So take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your start to your week. Take care and see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.